Hey everybody, it's Felisa, and today is going to be an entry into Transformation Tuesday. I wanted to come and do a little bit of a different conversation today and talk about prevention as opposed to diet and exercise, although, diet and exercise and all those things are important. But, I just heard about the death of Natalie DeSalle Reed. And of course, everyone knows that Chadwick Boseman died in August of this year, and both of them died of colorectal cancer. Chadwick was like 43, Natalie was only 53. And, I just find it so tragic that both of these amazing people, anybody really, would succumb to this cancer. My grandmother actually died of colon cancer, and watching her in the end stage of her life was brutal. It's an incredibly painful cancer. A lot of cancers are, so I'm not suggesting that it's more painful than the other cancer, but um she it was just, there are no words to describe watching that and seeing her waste away, and then continue to be in so much pain, and no medication was helping her, until she finally, went to be with the Lord. So I always have that in my mind in terms of knowing what that cancer is capable of. Colon cancer is, one of those cancers where you could have it for, a pretty significant amount of time. It's a slow growing cancer in most cases. And so therefore, and it doesn't have any symptoms typically. So people can be in the first stage of colorectal cancer and not even know it, have no symptoms, and feel perfectly fine, which is why the prevention screening is so important. Prevention screening starts about 50, if you are of average risk. Now, depending on the guidelines that you look at, the U.S. Task Force recommends 50. The ACS recommends at about 45. But in that age range, you should probably be having conversations with your physician. There's recommendations for you to have the screening earlier if you have a first degree relative who has had colon cancer, whether they survived it or not. If you have a first degree relative and they've had colon cancer, you should be screened earlier, and you should be having that conversation with your physician. Now, first degree relative is defined as someone that you have, at least 50% genetic, in common, genetics in common. So that would be your parents, your kids, your siblings, typically. So you want to make sure that if your mom or dad had colon cancer, like, it's really important for my mother to be screened for colon cancer given the potential history. It's going to be important for me to be screened if something happens with my mother, etc., etc. Now, I am late for my colonoscopy. I know this. I think about it all the time. I've scheduled my appointment. Get off me. But I do know how easy it is for it to kind of slip away. Now, we recommend that you have a colonoscopy. And the reason that we recommend that you have a colonoscopy is for a couple of different reasons. Number one, a colonoscopy will last you for 10 years. So if it's normal, the screening, like, you literally have 10 years and you don't have to think about it. So it's not a yearly test, and it's not something that, you have to keep on doing. You literally do it every decade, barring, of course, there's something that they find, like a polyp or, any kind of concern, I should say. And then they may bring you back in a 5-year interval or 3-year interval or whatever that the physician thinks. But beyond that, you could have a fit kit, which is a home card. It's a stool card. They send it to you. You get to put the stool on a card. You do that. You put the stool on the card and you mail it to the lab, and then pathology will result it for you. Those are only good for a year, so you're going to have to do that every year. And you have to keep in mind that if it comes back positive, you're going to have a colonoscopy anyway. That's going to be the recommendation. That's why I'm always like, just do the colonoscopy and get it over with. That way you already know you've done it, you're prepped, etc. You don't have to do anything else. Then there's kind of like this intermediate testing that they have now. It's called Cologuard. You probably have seen the ads for it. It's a little cartoon. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Like maybe a test, little cartoon test. And it's like, oh, Cologuard, and it's a DNA testing for your stool, and it's supposed to be more sensitive than the fit kit, but it still does not prevent you from having to go on and have a colonoscopy. The colonoscopy is going to be king, and it is going to trump anything else that you're going to do. So if you can, I suggest that you have a colonoscopy. But I did want to talk a little bit about some signs and, maybe some symptoms that you may have that may give you pause, and you may want to go and talk to your physician about it. And that is, a sense of abdominal fullness or heaviness, a feeling that you haven't emptied your bowels all the way. I know that this is probably TMI, but seriously, I think that this conversation may help to save someone. So bear with me. Any stool changes, whether it's diarrhea or you're constipated all of a sudden for no reason, or you have persistent and longing diarrhea or constipation, if there's any changes in the color, if you're having, like I said, abdominal fullness, bloating, gas, pain, sharp, whatever, anything that makes you feel off, trust your intuition and have that conversation with your primary care physician ASAP. And listen, don't just take whatever it is they say as the gospel. Press in, ask questions. Don't be so quick to just accept, oh, it's just nothing, it's just this, then, the third, especially if you're young. I worked with a woman whose husband was diagnosed with colon cancer in his 30s, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but he was having some symptoms, and he went to the doctor, and because his father had colon cancer, the physician was very proactive and like, yeah, well, I'm sure that it's nothing, but let's test and see anyway. Gave him a colonoscopy and saved that man's life because he was already at a stage 3. So it's just really important to, number one, know your history, be as familiar with it as you possibly can get, and then be proactive with your physician. Try not to Google too much, because you'll Google and you'll swear that you're dying. And that's not always the case. Google is not always. Don't do it. Google a few things. If you feel like you just want to, give yourself a sense of peace, or, you just want to know some stuff, that's cool. But yeah, don't get too far in the weeds with it, because then you won't be able to sleep at night. But write down your questions, and write down any concerns that you may have, any changes that you see. Write them down and then take them to your physician. I'm a big proponent of writing stuff down. I got in the habit of doing that when I was pregnant. As a matter of fact, every pregnancy book says write your questions down, because you forget. You have, well, such thing as pregnancy brain, which I still think I have, but like, you will have every intention to ask questions in the context of your visit, and for whatever reason you get in there and go through all of the checkup and the vitals and all that kind of stuff, and they get to ask, you have any questions? No. You forgot everything that you wanted to ask. So it's important to have your list of, yeah, doc, when I do this happens, or I've been noticing these changes, or when I wake up in the morning, my stomach is really tight and I really have a lot of pain. I just want to make sure that everything is okay. I'm sorry, my tag is back here doing something. Anyway, yeah, so have those conversations with your physician. Be on top of testing and things that you need to have at certain intervals. But certainly, if you have a family history of colon cancer or any other thing that may be adverse, breast cancer, cervical cancer, uterine cancer, anything that is, in your family, diabetes, hypertension, those kinds of things, keep having the conversation with your physician, because it may push up the age that you actually need to have certain tests and services done. Instead of you waiting until you're 50, maybe you need to start having some early screening at 35 or 40 even, just to make sure that everything is what it should be and there's nothing that you should be concerned about. So I can't stress that enough. Rest in peace to Natalie, rest in peace to Chadwick. I really hope that this encourages people to be proactive about their health. Don't wait until something is wrong. Schedule your checkups yearly with your physician. Get those lab tests done. Get your blood work done. Get your your urinalysis. You want to know what's going on in your body, and then work on the exterior. You know, yes, losing weight and, you know, being healthy and being fit cardiovascularly is wonderful, and that's what we want. We aspire to that, but you got to still take care of your insides and your vital organs in particular, and make sure that you're having all the tests and the diagnostic services that you should have at the right interval. I'm Felisa. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I will talk to y'all later on. Bye.